Today to add $250 billion to the Paycheck Protection Program, loans for small businesses to pay workers late out of money. Billions have been requested, but very little paid.
Lenders fear they'll be left holding the bag if the loan isn't processed properly or if it turns out to be fraudulent.
Some banks are requiring pre-existing relationships to hand out the loans. Democrats want a quarter of the new money set aside for small businesses that don't have that.
Folks, President Biden is here and he's ready to talk about the fourth stimulus check. I'm ready for President Biden to send out more stimulus payments to the American people that need it the most. Folks, a second round of stimulus checks up to $500, $1,000 is actually currently underway. So everybody, a second round of stimulus payments in the state of California worth around $1,000 is underway. And in Virginia, folks, a resident can claim a 2021 tax return and receive a $500 rebate in their mailbox. It's important to note that the 2022 tax refund program in several states is a little bit different than other states' stimulus programs because people in Massachusetts, for example, will each receive a different amount of money in their tax refund checks. It's because Massachusetts will mail a check or provide a direct deposit that amounts to about 14% of each eligible taxpayer's state income tax liability from their 2021 tax return. This year, Massachusetts will return the more than $2.9 billion in excess revenue to eligible taxpayers. Eligible people and taxpayers will generally receive a 2022 tax refund of about 14% of their 2021 Massachusetts income tax liability. However, if you have unpaid taxes or owe child support, the amount of your refund may be reduced by the amount of the outstanding tax liability or unpaid child support that you have. So the Massachusetts tax refund will either arrive in the mail check or be sent via direct deposit. Not only that, if the state has already have your banking information on file, you can actually get stimulus payments faster than everybody else. So right now, we know that the Biden administration is just moving forward with an overhaul of several student debt forgiveness programs, everybody. It's aiming to make it easier for borrowers to get relief. Today, the Education Department has actually finalized a package of rules that were proposed earlier this year. Not only that, but the new rules take hold in July and are separate from Joe Biden's sweeping student debt forgiveness plan, which is already being held up in court amid a legal challenge because of Republicans. The Education Secretary has actually called it a monumental step that will make it faster and simpler to get debt relief, and he also said the Biden administration is fixing a broken system and putting borrowers first. Chief among the changes is a revamp of a program known as Borrower Defense. It offers debt forgiveness to students whose colleges commit fraud. The program aims to help victims of predatory for-profit colleges, and it has been bogged down by complex rules and political battles. It resulted in a massive backlog of applications, though. Now, CNBC is also in reversal from the former president's policies that eliminated group the charges and make it harder for individuals to qualify for stimulus checks. The new rule cements the department's ability to erase debt for thousands of borrowers in a single action, as the Biden administration has already done so for people who attend Corinthian colleges and other non-profit and for-profit college chains. In a major shift, the federal government will also be able to force colleges to cover the costs when their students are granted loan cancellation because of fraud. Those costs have typically been passed to taxpayers, prompting complaints from conservative critics who say the program too freely cancels debt at the public's expense. The new rule erases the 15-day rule. It allows payments to count even if they are made late or in multiple installments. It also makes borrowers to make up a year of payments in advance in a single sum rather than make monthly payments. So we're seeing some people, like President Biden, help out the American people with stimulus payments, and as long as the Republicans agree to this and the Democrats sign on the bill, we can see more stimulus checks in our mailbox.
Overwhelmingly support our agenda. Lowering prescription drug costs, making healthcare more affordable, rebuilding America, revitalizing American manufacturing, taking on the climate crisis, and finally making big corporations pay their fair share. Preserving democracy and protecting fundamental rights. This is the progress and the programs that we ran on. This is the vote that showed just some real enthusiasm for what we're fighting for. And guess what? It matters. You know, when we came to office, we inherited a nation and a pandemic raging and an economy that was reeling. But we went to work, all of you. And by the way, I know a lot of you just didn't show up on election day. You've been working the last 20 or so months for it. But you went to work, building an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And so, you know, the MAGA Republican trickle-down economic policy we decided didn't work for Americans. Our economic policies created 10 million new jobs. Unemployment went from 6.4% down.
What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should President Biden forgive student loan forgiveness or forgive student loans, or should he be focused on helping the American people out with more stimulus payments? Tell me your thoughts on this. Joe Manchin is releasing a new shocking announcement. Manchin has confirmed that he does not want to support President Biden's plan or his new economic agenda either. Lawmakers are planning to meet to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Watch till the end to see what President Biden is going to say about this. The West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has dealt with a huge blow to President Biden's economic agenda. He told Chuck Schumer that he will only support a reconciliation bill that lowers prescription prices and extends subsidies for the nation's healthcare law. The Affordable Care Act, that is. And according to a Democrat briefed on the conversations, Manchin told Schumer that he cannot support a bill containing the climate or energy provisions the president seeks. Without those climate provisions, and coupled with the recent Supreme Court ruling limiting the power of the EPA, it will be difficult for the Biden administration to meet its climate goals. Biden has vowed by 2030 to reduce the nation's greenhouse emissions by 50%, or 52% below the 2005 levels. Oregon Democrat Senator Ron Wyden, chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, who has helped craft a portion of the bill, said in a statement he cannot sugarcoat his disappointment at the news. Wyden wrote in a statement that this is our last chance to prevent the most catastrophic and costly effect of climate change. We cannot come back another decade and forestall hundreds of thousands of billions of dollars in economic damage and undo this human toll. Manchin said he will not support provisions to close tax loopholes that are exploited by the wealthiest Americans and corporations to raise revenue that will help extend the solvency of Medicare, which will only be payable until 2028 if nothing is done. Democrats have been working toward legislation that could be passed in August, which is when many states announce affordable care health insurance premium increases. Schumer has not yet said how he plans to proceed, whether he will proceed with a bill that will lower prescription prices and extends the Affordable Care Act subsidies for 2 years as Americans face skyrocketing costs for nearly everything else. Shoppers paid high prices for a variety of goods in June as inflation kept its hold on a slowing U.S. economy. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today that the Consumer Price Index, which is a broad measure of everyday goods and services related to the cost of living, soared 9.1% from a year ago. That marked the fastest pace for inflation back to November 1981. Excluding volatile food and energy prices, so-called core CPI increased 5.9% compared with the 5.7% estimate. The core inflation peaked at 6.5% in March and has been nudging down since. On a monthly basis, headline CPI rose 1.3% and core CPI was up by 0.7%, compared to respective estimates of 1.1%. Taken together, the numbers seem to counter the statements from the White House that inflation may or be peaking, as the gains were based